Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely brilliant, completely terrifying thriller sourced from the Scarytown Hindi YouTube channel. We're going to pull this story apart to see exactly how a masterclass in suspense, misdirection, and those jaw-dropping double twists is actually built. You know, as a huge fan of narrative structure, I literally love looking at the mechanics of fear. How does a storyteller use our own expectations against us to create something unforgettable? So get comfortable and let's pull apart the Adhmara of NH24 to see exactly how it spins its terrifying web.
To really set that creepy campfire atmosphere, the story hooks us right from the jump with this chilling local legend. It's all about a highway where the hunters actually become the hunted. And listen to the specific word they use here, hungry. NH24 isn't just a stretch of asphalt, right? The story makes the setting itself an active, predatory antagonist. Plus, the fog acts like this giant visual blindfold, limiting what the characters, and by extension us, can actually see. By telling us right out of the gate that the fog is not always what it seems, the writer plants this tiny seed of paranoia. From minute one, we are completely primed to distrust every single thing we're about to witness. To build our baseline expectations, the story leans heavily on some classic horror tropes. On one side, you have Radha. She's your archetypical damsel in distress, right? A lonely hitchhiker walking down a pitch-black road, begging for a ride, claiming she's running from death and has lost literally everything. And on the flip side, we have Dev. He's the quiet, cautious, but ultimately good guy rescuer who unlocks his door to help her out. I mean, this is a textbook setup. We've all seen this movie before. The vulnerable woman, the isolated driver in the middle of nowhere. The writer absolutely wants us to feel comfortable recognizing this pattern. But, as we're going to see, establishing these tropes so perfectly is actually the storyteller's very first trap. So, once Radha gets inside the truck, things start getting weird. The atmosphere totally sours. Hours go by in dead silence. And then the tension just completely flips. Radha slowly turns to Dev with this incredibly creepy smile and just starts taunting him. She talks about how her home is nothing but ashes and screams now. And when Dev understandably starts freaking out, thinking he just picked up a restless spirit, Radha hits him with this chilling line. "Do you think I am a ghost? Ghosts never leave their prey." It's brilliant. It's the perfect false reveal. The power dynamic completely shifts. Our vulnerable hitchhiker is now heavily implied to be some sort of supernatural predator, and she forces Dev, our terrified driver, to ditch his truck and bolt into the dark forest. At this point, we totally think we figured out the twist, right? We think we know exactly who the villain is.
So Dev escapes into the woods, and his mind is just racing with all these local ghost stories. He stumbles upon an abandoned little wooden shed and hides under a bench, frantically clutching this metal religious amulet, just praying for protection. Meanwhile, Radha, acting fully possessed and covered in black mud, slowly creeps into the shed to corner him. Let's just hit pause right here at the absolute peak of the tension. I want to ask you, who is actually playing the game here? We've got a supernatural entity cornering a helpless guy who's armed with nothing but a little trinket of faith. It looks like a classic ghost attack. But, remember our hook? Nothing on this highway is what it seems.
Boom. The dramatic irony drops like a hammer. Inside that pitch-black shed, Radha suddenly smells something awful. This overpowering scent of rotting flesh. She looks around completely confused, only to realize the smell is coming from Dev. Underneath that bench, Dev's whole demeanor shifts. He just casually tosses away his protective amulet and goes through this horrific transformation. His skin turns a sickening green, his eyes roll all the way back into his skull, and he suddenly has this immense demonic strength. Yeah, the guy we thought was the innocent victim is actually the real monster. The storyteller just totally pulled the rug out from under us with a flawless midpoint twist.
Dev stands up, fully transformed, and just snarls at her. "You played a lot of games, now this is my game. Me and my villagers are very hungry." I mean, wow, that just shatters the whole ghost story illusion into a million pieces. In a split second, we shift genres from a spooky supernatural haunting straight into a brutal physical monster encounter. Dev isn't a victim, he never was. He was literally just playing along with Radha's creepy little act until he got her to an isolated spot where he could feed. It is just masterful pacing, taking everything the audience assumes and weaponizing it to create this entirely new, way deeper layer of fear.
Now Radha is the one running for her life, and the action sequence that follows is incredibly frantic. It's rapid fire. She barely dodges Dev's attack in the shed, sprints all the way back to the truck, and locks herself inside. But Dev, he's a super strong creature now, and he just smashes right through the door. During this violent, desperate struggle inside the cabin, the truck's handbrake actually fails. The whole heavy rig starts rolling down a slope and violently smashes into a massive boulder.
The kinetic energy here is absolutely wild. The impact is so intense that Dev gets launched straight through the windshield and knocked unconscious on the ground. And that gives Radha this tiny, desperate little window to grab an iron rod, crawl out of the wreckage, and make a run for it back into the woods.
Okay, so here's where things get really crazy. As she's running blindly through the dark, bleeding, absolutely terrified, Radha pulls out her phone and calls her friend Surabi. And it's during this frantic phone call that the story drops its second massive twist. Ready for this? This whole thing was Radha's actual master plan all along. She's not a ghost, she's not a demon, she is literally just a human scammer. Her entire routine, the hitchhiking, acting possessed, rambling about ashes, it was all a highly calculated con job designed to terrify innocent truck drivers so she could extort money from them while they were panicking. Talk about brilliant narrative irony. This woman faked being a monster to rob people, and in the process, she accidentally lured a real, actual monster right into her own trap.
So right as Radha is confessing her scam over the phone, screaming for help and trying to send her live location, bam! The story jolts us with pure physical shock. She bursts out of the tree line and gets violently slammed by a passing car, just thrown totally through the air. The woman driving the car slams on the brakes, rushes out apologizing profusely, and helps a bleeding Radha into the passenger seat to rush her to the nearest hospital. And for just a split second, the pacing finally slows down. We can finally exhale. Radha is in a brightly lit car. She's with a seemingly normal person. It looks like she's actually survived a nightmare.
But as the car speeds away, the woman casually asks Radha what she was doing out in the woods so late. Radha is still in full panic mode, begging the woman to just drive faster, and she frantically drops this final piece of lore for us. She explains exactly what it was she was just fighting. They're called the Adhmara, the half-dead. Apparently, they're local villagers who got mutated into these super strong green-skinned monsters after a massive chemical blast nearby. Radha is spilling all this to warn the driver, right? And the driver is listening so intently. She even asks, really, what do they look like? So Radha describes the green skin and the insane strength.
And that brings us to the most devastating, inescapable subversion that caps off the whole tale. Radha suddenly looks out the window and realizes the scenery is wrong. She asks the woman why she's asking so many questions, pointing out that this road isn't even heading toward the city. The driver slowly turns her head, looks right at Radha, and delivers this absolute gut punch of a final line, because I am one of them too. In that split second, the driver reveals she's also an Adhmara, and she immediately attacks Radha right there inside the moving car. It is such a suffocating, hopeless ending. The storyteller brilliantly proves that on NH24, every helping hand is really just death in disguise. The hunter became the hunted, she miraculously escaped, only to willingly climb right back into the jaws of the trap. So I'll leave you with this thought to ponder long after this explainer ends. In a world where predators wear the masks of victims and rescuers, how do you ever really know who you're letting into the passenger seat?